Good morning, everyone. That's great. I'd like to begin with a thank you to our venue sponsor, Princeton University's Community and Regional Affairs. And I'd like to introduce Charlie Tennyson, the Assistant Vice President of Campus Services in Princeton, to welcome you all.
Great, thank you, Deborah, and thank you all for being here. So good morning, my name is Charlie Tennyson. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Campus Services at Princeton. That includes our amazing transportation team. Some of our folks are here today. I hope you get a chance to meet them, and welcome to Princeton University. It's my pleasure to get to do that. As universities, we serve as conveners, and that's personally why I work in higher education. I think we can do exponentially more together than we can do individually, and I find that as a transportation professional to be really, really true in the work that we all do together. I've witnessed that in our work with Princeton Municipality, the county, New Jersey DOT, and countless other public partners, so it's our pleasure to get to serve this role as the convener and host today. I also think, just to make sure everyone knows, this is a critical topic for Princeton University. So 98% of our undergraduates live on campus. About 2/3 of our graduate students live in university housing facilities, and that means all of them are biking and walking every day on campus, and it is our core responsibility to make sure that mobility experience is a good one for them, a safe one, and an accessible one. Really just wanted to say thank you all for being here today. It's our pleasure to have you on campus. Thank you, most importantly, for the really important work that you all do in your communities. We know what it's like to do the work you're doing, and nothing fills me up more than seeing a room full of people doing that across the state. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a great event.
Thank you, Charlie. Can everybody hear me? We good? Great. Okay, welcome to the 14th Annual 2025 New Jersey Bike and Walk Summit. I believe this is our largest summit yet, and it couldn't come at a better time to bring our community together. I want to thank all of our 2025 sponsors, and especially our gold sponsors, Vaccaro Law, Helen and William Mazer Foundation, Mercer County, the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety, and Urban Cycling Solutions. We are honored to have with us today an amazing group of esteemed speakers and panelists. And I want to thank all of you for sharing your time and expertise with us today. There's a lot of panelists and speakers. Our summit is about more than listening and learning. It is also about building and strengthening our movement to make New Jersey a more equitable and sustainable place to live and thrive, with access for everyone to safe and welcoming places to walk, bike, and roll. We have had some great successes this year, which we will share with everybody. And we are aware that we face some serious challenges from the severe shift in national policy. We are certain these policy changes are undercutting efforts to create safer streets for people who bike and walk. These changes include the current freeze in millions of discretionary grant funds and adding bike lanes to the list of words to be scrubbed. This is a crucial time for us to work together, build alliances, and oppose the policy shift. While federal policy and acceptable words may change our values, and our goals will not. So what does this mean to all of us going forward? One key strategy is we need to reach out to our elected officials and remind them that making streets safe for biking, walking also helps grow the economy and results in better health outcomes and better quality of life. These are goals that the current administration has said that are important to them. One key strategy is also to strengthen our efforts here in New Jersey. Building on the recent creation of the Target Zero Commission, the state can take a leadership role and model a statewide approach to address our traffic violence crisis. To do that, we will need not just good plans and policies, but funding. As federal funds for Bike Ped disappear, we need strong support from our state. We are in the beginning of a budget season, and a review of the current draft shows a troubling reduction in funding for Bike Ped infrastructure. As federal funds dwindle, it is imperative our state funds grow to help achieve the goal of the Target Zero Commission. This is also a time for us to celebrate some of the many achievements accomplished this year. We have county and local safety action plans, demonstration projects for complete streets, and safe passing signs popping up, new Vision Zero policy, and task forces being formed. And both DEP and DOT are here today gathering input for new bike ped trails, master plan, and trail playbook. Last year, NJBWC announced the creation of the North Jersey Trail Network Initiative in partnership with Rails to Trails, an exciting project to create a network of shared paths connecting communities in New Jersey. Since then, we've been building a diverse coalition to develop the project vision, map opportunity corridors, and identify funding. We need your input and participation, so please stop by the New Jersey Bike and Walk Coalition table to learn more and to join us. High on our list of accomplished this year is the passing of the Target Zero Commission bill. Yay! It deserves 2 applauses, right? Okay. Signed into law this January by Governor Murphy and championed by State Senator Duignan and Assemblyman Karabinchek. A broad coalition of advocates spearheaded this effort and worked tirelessly to get this bill passed. Advocates don't always get recognition for our work, right? So I want to take a moment to recognize NJBWC members, along with all of our partners at the Families for Safe Streets, the Tri-State Transportation Campaign, the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philly, and all the other advocates who are part of the Vision Zero New Jersey Alliance. Please stand if you are a part of the coalition that brought this bill from an idea to a law that establishes a historic statewide commission dedicated to achieving our goal of 0 traffic fatalities and serious injuries by 2040. Yeah, come on, you guys are in the coalition, let's see you. Woo! Good work. We are honored to have DOT Commissioner O'Connor, the chair of the Target Zero Commission, with us today to share his thoughts. Now I'd like to introduce a great champion for sustainable transportation in New Jersey, Mercer County Executive and former New Jersey Assemblyman and Transportation Committee Chair, Dan Benson, who will introduce our keynote speaker. County Executive Benson has long been an advocate for safer roads. In the legislature, he helped advance critical funding for the TTF that funds our local roads. Here in Mercer County, his administration has adopted a comprehensive land use ordinance, moved towards a Vision Zero policy, and created innovative shared services to move forward work on the South Broad Street and the Route 29 Boulevard project. Please welcome County Executive Benson.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Good morning. Good morning. It's great to be here to welcome you all here in Mercer County. How many Mercer County residents we got here? A good representation. I love that. It's an honor to introduce our keynote speaker, New Jersey Department of Transportation Commissioner Fran O'Connor. Now, I'm told I only have about 60 seconds to make the introduction, so I'm going to apologize for some of the accomplishments in your career that I may gloss over. But I'm going to take a Trenton 60 minutes as a former legislator. So, Commissioner O'Connor grew up in Jersey City, and he started his career. Hey, we got some Jersey City folks. And he started out his career in transportation, working as a toll collector for the Turnpike Authority. Over 16 years at the authority, Fran rose up the ranks, eventually becoming the Deputy Director for Electronic Toll Collections, where he helped lead the charge to implement the system that we all now know as E-ZPass. Moving to the private sector, Fran held high-level positions with Atkins, ETC, and ATS. In these roles, he spearheaded major projects and lent his expertise to transportation agencies around the nation. Fortunately, Governor Murphy was able to bring Fran back to New Jersey to public service where he belongs. Fran became acting commissioner in February of 2024, and on June 28th of that year, he was confirmed by the State Senate as our 20th Commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Transportation. Those of us who have worked with the commissioner know him to be thoughtful, hardworking, and honest. He's a hands-on leader, and he's never lost the instinct for public service that he gained as a toll taker. He's a committed advocate for multimodal transportation, and above all, he's committed to ending transportation fatalities so that everyone can arrive safely at their destination. I'm most appreciative for his desire to be a partner to better mobility, even when it's outside the comfort zone of his department, as long as it helps achieve our shared goals. So without further ado, DOT Commissioner Fran O'Connor.
Good morning. Thank you, Dan. But most of all, thank you for being a partner with us and a leader of transportation. You have done a great job, and I'm proud and I'm humbled to work alongside you. I have to do a special shout out to my friends in our high school, Burlington City, Princeton, and West Orange. Thank you for being here. That's what we need in our industry. We need you to help us because sometimes we get clouded and we need you to give us direction. Good morning, everyone. I just have to say, being a kid from Jersey City, I don't think my friends would have thought that I'd be talking at Princeton University. So, get that Princeton University. So, I'm privileged to be here today at the 14th Annual New Jersey Bike and Walk Summit. Looking around the room, I see advocates, planners, local leaders, business owners, and fellow New Jerseyans who all share the same vision for the future, a state where walking and biking are not just safe, but celebrated as a fundamental parts of our transportation system. I want to start by recognizing New Jersey Bike and Walk Coalition for their leadership and advocacy for protecting and promoting the rights of bicyclists and pedestrians. You've been a driving force in making sure voices are heard, policies are shaped, and progress is made. But as everyone here knows, we still have a lot of work to do. Every year, too many lives are lost or forever changed because our roads remain dangerous for people walking and biking. That's unacceptable. And that's why I'm here, to make it clear that New Jersey isn't content with making small improvements. We're setting our sights on something bigger. I want to thank Governor Murphy for getting the movement the momentum it needs, both through his words and his actions. On January 13th, our governor signed a law, the creation of the Target Zero Commission, which I am honored of chairing. Our mission, eliminating roadway fatalities in New Jersey by 2040, not reducing them. Not reducing them, not hoping they decrease, eliminating them. Some say that's impossible. I say that's a failure of imagination. We know this goal is achievable because we have success stories. Other cities around the globe have been incredible results for redesigning streets, managing speeds, and prioritizing vulnerable roadway users. If they can do it, why can't we? This is the most applause that I have got, because you know how I deliver. I got no applause when I was up at Route 80 talking about sinkholes and mines, so just, this is good. The key is a fundamental shift in how we think about traffic safety. Instead of placing all the burden on individual behavior, we must build a transportation system that prevents serious crashes, even when people make mistakes. This is where the Target Zero Commission will be focusing our efforts. We're going to look at things like designing roads that naturally slow down drivers in high-risk areas. Keep doing that, I might miss my next event. Hopefully I'm doing okay. Guys, my friends, are doing good? they always keep me, the Burlington City kids, I was honored to walk with them to high school, one morning, to see how unsafe Route 130 is for walking around there. And it was a privilege to walk with the children and see what they go through. You know, I always had my mother say, I walked to school in the snow, uphill, both ways. But when I see these children trying to get through 130 without sidewalks and cars that are not paying attention, where you have a mandatory 25 miles an hour in front of their school, and you have a road diet in front of their school, not paying attention to it. So I have to give credit to you children of how you get to school, and you inspire me to continue my work here. Don't count that in my 10 minutes, please. You know, what goes around comes around. Deborah is going to speak at one of my meetings, and she puts up a sign. I'm going to put up a sign. 1 minute. So. Implemented proven safety countermeasures at our most dangerous intersections. We have already done this, and there are more deployments and planned statewide. Ensuring that people walking and biking are prioritized and not treated as an afterthought. And holding ourselves accountable with real data, measurable goals, and full transparency. We already started the work. The first meeting of the commission took place just a few weeks ago on March 6th. We have representatives from state 10 agency and all 3 metropolitan planning organizations at the table. But we know government alone won't get us to zero. That's why advocacy groups, including many of you here today, will play a critical role in shaping our statewide safety action plan. While the law gives us until February 2026 to deliver the plan, I want to move faster. My goal is to present a draft to Governor Murphy by December of this year, because I won't be in this role forever. I don't want to lay out a vision and just hope others will take up the mantle, and with the same sense of urgency and passion that I have. We're building a long-term movement here, so I'm building action and accountability in the plan. Let me say that another way. This won't be a report that sits on the shelf. It will be a living roadmap for real and lasting change. Our approach is clear. We'll use data to drive decisions. We're looking on how our crash records are reported and maintained. We're identifying the most dangerous intersections and corridors across New Jersey and taking a look at focusing resources where they'll save the most lives. We'll look at ways to improve education at every level, K through 12 students, new drivers, and even those who haven't taken a driver test since the 70s. Everyone needs to understand that, me included, right? Right? And I say, and this, I wish, I was sitting in a secretary meeting, and the Secretary of West Virginia, and he said, I took a driving test when I was 16, and he goes, I'm 65 now, and I haven't taken any driving test. Because we started talking about the move over laws. How many of us, or how many of the older people know you're supposed to move over? Or how many people know when somebody's making a left turn that you're not supposed to go around them in the shoulder, right? I mean, that's the stuff that we're thinking about and how we get that, and we're working with our partners at the MVC to see, who are part of the commission, of what we can do there. We'll prioritize safety for our most vulnerable and roadway users. If our roads are safe for those on foot and on bikes, they'll be safe for everyone. One of the ways we're working to improve bike and pedestrian safety right now is by helping communities turn trail concepts into reality through the local bicycle and pedestrian planning assistance program. New Jersey DOT supports planning and feasibility studies for trails across the state, from the Elephant Swamp Trail in South Jersey to the East Coast Greenway in the north. We'll also continue to fund local bicycle and pedestrian trail projects through the local aid programs. including the Bikeway Grant Program, which supports the development of trails, paths to promote biking as a viable, sustainable mode of transportation. I'm going to deviate. Not only do we have to create these trailways and bikeways, but we also have to make sure our roads are safe so our people riding bicycles and walking are getting to these paths safely. So just not the paths, but around it. We're also working on an update to the New Jersey Trails Plan in collaboration with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. In December, we launched a statewide trail user survey to help shape the future of trail access and safety and inclusivity for all New Jerseyans. New Jersey is the most densely populated state in the nation, and the means carving out new space for people to safely walk or bike away from traffic can be a challenge. But sometimes there are opportunities to reimagine the past and create something great for the future. Mercer County and the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission are doing exactly that with this exciting new project currently in concept development. The Johnson Trolley Trail is a powerful example of how we can breathe new life into an obsolete infrastructure. County Executive, I could take privilege, right, and say, okay. Once a trolley line connecting Trenton, Ewing, and Lawrence and Princeton, it's now being reimagined as a safe or off-road corridor linking communities, schools, job centers, and green space across Mercer County. Projects like this show us what's possible when we think creativity and mobility. New Jersey DOT is committed to supporting and assisting our transportation partners with this initiative and others like it, and will continue to champion projects that make walking and biking safer, easier, and more accessible across New Jersey. None of this happens without collaboration, so today I'm asking for your help. Get involved with the working groups that will help shape our safe action plan, our state safety action plan. Lend your voice at the public meetings we're going to hold throughout the year. We have an opportunity to do something transformative in New Jersey, to build a state where no one has to fear for their life just because they chose to walk or bike. It won't be easy, but the only way we'll fail if we don't try. Let's make history together. Let's get to zero. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I tell you, when probably the biggest honor when I was sitting at the signing of Target Zero and watching folks that were there, and many of you were there, holding photos of loved ones who were tragically killed in accidents. You know, you say put a face to what we're doing. It really shows us. And I have to tell a story. My first week on the job, and I receive an email for every accident and every fatality that happens in the state. And whether it's at night, I get up, look at the phone, and my wife immediately says, how many and where? So last year wasn't a good year for us. We had fatalities that increased. And in the department, what we say, we don't call it, you know, this is not a campaign, this is not an initiative, it has to be a way of life. That's what it has to be, and we have to think that. And a lot of you saw the what if radio ads that we put on, that to try to say, okay, before we get in the car, let's think, what if the last person that this bicyclist saw was you texting or distracted. So I have to give credit to you, how you led this charge and brought the vision of of this to the state and getting the state behind. So Peter. So your applause ate up most of the time, but you could ask a few questions. And if I don't have the answer, I'll make sure. Now, a lot of questions were asked when I did the podcast, and we're getting those answers, the detailed answers, and they'll be on the website. Just I have to, work through that this week. So if you have a detailed question, I promise you the detailed answer will be on the website. That's a promise. I always keep my promise, and the one thing is I don't lie. And if nobody has questions, that's fine. Oh, no.
Sorry, you don't
All
get
right.
off that easy.
All right, right here first. We have one here, number 2. I'm used to going 1, 2, and then we'll go 3 up there.
I'm Jim Vance. I'm with Hudson County Complete Streets. I live in Hoboken. We're trying to...
Great job in Hoboken and Jersey City.
Well, we're coming... Yes, we are. And it's going to be greater. I'm interested in making sure that we have equal, not equity, but equal right to the public right-of-way for everybody in a safe manner. My question to you is this, and I know you're the messenger, you work for the governor, you do, from what I hear and what I heard today, a really terrific job. Thank you for being there. We're going to spend $10.5, maybe $11 billion, as you well know, to widen the turnpike. Well, the turnpike was built when I was a kid, and that was a long time ago. I don't want to load on to the next generation, my kids, my grandchildren. Well, you know where I'm going.
No,
I'd just like to, I know you're not in charge of it, but I'd like you to go to the governor and pass on what everybody here is thinking. This is madness. This is absolute madness. Please.
And I am the chairman of the Turnpike Authority, and ultimately the buck stops with me. The governor realized. Now, I'll tell you, the bridge has to be replaced. And, we could say what we want to do. They spent $100 million each year to try to Band-Aid that bridge. And I would love to take you underneath the bridge, and you'll say, why are people driving it? You have to realize, and I know, I sat through a 3-hour board meeting at the New Jersey Turnpike, and I hear, but we have to make, and again, we make our streets safe, we make our roads safe, and that bridge is not safe. That bridge has to be replaced. Now, we could have a discussion of what's going on after that, and I agree with you. We have to look at that. We look at all options on that, because when you're particularly talking the expansion being one lane going down from 14A down to 14C, and, that's, being looked at. We're listening, we're looking at it. But I know the first part of that program, and that bridge has to be replaced. We have to get the trucks off that road and into the ports where they're going to. That's so important, With regard to the bridge. Yeah. Oh, and I understand that. But thank you. For 3 hours I heard, and the good thing is, and people say, oh, we need people to come and tell us, okay? The governor does listen to me on advice. Ultimately, it's his decision on the advice we give, but I am the chairman there, and the buck stops with me there. Okay, right here.
Thanks very much. I'm Steve Vaccaro. I'm an attorney representing crash victims and working as an advocate here in New Jersey to improve biking and walking. I certainly agree with you that we need to build our roads to be forgiving, because people will make mistakes, and that is at the core of Vision Zero. But sometimes I feel that the role of law enforcement is overlooked in my work, and not just from the perspective of trying to bring, criminal charges or prosecutions against drivers, but in the first instance, investigating crashes and how they occur. And I see that small town and borough police departments throughout New Jersey don't have the resources and the backup that they need and could in theory, get from the state police, particularly when there's a severe or fatal crash. And I want to know what the Target Zero Commission is thinking of doing, or what the plans are with respect to making sure that police are there as part of the solution here to make sure we understand why these fatal and severe injury crashes are occurring, that we can put in engineering fixes afterwards if necessary to deal with problems in hotspots.
Right. And just real, the state police are part of the Target Zero Commission. Before you go, I have to go up back there. So they are part of the commission. So they are part of the solution. They have said, you know, not only them, we need the prosecutors, the county prosecutors, and local law enforcement. Now you say, what's the vision? I would love to say, you know, we are just starting to work with the advocates and with the state, and we're just getting on board a consultant to help us put this together so we can start our working groups. So that's where the action's going to happen, okay? The ideas. What do we have to do, and the recommendations on that. Law enforcement is part of the solution, no doubt about it. On the investigations, then we have to see, you know, how they can help on it, on determining it, you know, on the road. So, but it's still more to come. You know, we have to see what our commission, you know, when we all get together, and you know, hopefully, advocates like you are at the table to say, okay, what can we do? And like I said, I really mean it. We need folks involved with this commission. And we'll go, I think, back there, here, and then over there.
Hi, my name is Pat. I'm from Bergen County. I'm a local advocate. On the topic of education, I wanted to get your understanding of where that fits in and how substantial that should be. I think about the fact that many drivers that I see all the time will blow through stop signs. And that is not something that any driver is uneducated about. They all know that they're supposed to, by law, stop at stop signs, and that doesn't change any of their behavior. And so while I appreciate the idea of doing education campaigns around different law updates like the safe passing law, I'm wondering how the DOT views that fitting into infrastructural changes and where you see the focus needing to be. Because from the advocacy side of things, it seems like the infrastructure needs to be like 90 or 80% of it, and the education really needs to be a much smaller piece.
I think the education has to be up a little more because, number one, and you just talked about people blowing through stop signs, but the education, you know, has to start at a younger age. And I'll tell you why. You know, when I say, and Georgia has put this in there, the DOT has worked to put in their curriculum in there, and it has tremendous help. And what do you say? You have a person starting, number one, they're walking, they're paying attention, they graduated to, okay, I'm still walking, bicyclists, cars. So you're starting from the beginning. And then, you know, on another educational side, and I talked about, you know, the passing on the right or the move over law. How many people know that? And again, the MVC is on the commission. Hopefully we have something, and I'm not talking about, but when you get, let's face it, we renew our license online, it takes 2 minutes and you don't do anything, right? Is there a public service video that can show them on different areas? Even what laws change, the move over law has changed in the last 5 years, first for police vehicles, now for other emergency vehicles. So that's part of it. So I think education's a big part of it. As we design our roads, and I agree with you, roads that have been designed in the 50s, you know, and I'll use the Burlington City Road where, you know, the way the turn was on 130, that it couldn't possibly see anybody walking. That's areas where we have to do carve-outs and stuff like that. You know, the biggest thing that, you know, bothers me is where I say I try to do all these things and I fought, you know, do this, and then all of a sudden I see an unlicensed 17-year-old taking a joyride with his friends and blow through a red light and kills 2 people, all right? And you have the video, you know, that's the stuff that how do you educate somebody, or how do you get to that problem, which is a whole different set of standards of what we do. So I don't think it's, you know, 90% roads. I think roads is a big part of it, but I think education throughout the whole system from kindergarten all the way up. Okay? And I think what I say over here and then there. All right. This is the last question, so I apologize, but please email the question. And people say, anybody, how do you get to me? Or how do we notify the department if there's a problem or if you feel there's an unsafe condition? You email me, and I'll make sure the right people get it.
My name is Gurnam Bedi. I live in Princeton. I work in New York City. And I don't know if you know, but congestion pricing has been the best thing ever in the US.
So this is the questions that are going to end
Yeah.
all the cheering when I answer it, but go ahead.
Just quickly, so my office is on the street level. I can't believe this is New York City. It's so quiet, and I literally know nobody who's been upset with this except Governor Murphy and all these people who have been writing letters to Trump to shut this down. So I'm just requesting you guys, please don't do that.
Well,
It's the best thing ever. And people will remember this and copy this across US.
now I could say, I understand and walk away, but that's not me, a kid from Jersey City. I was one of the people that wrote to the secretary because I didn't think it was fair. You have to realize, guys, I believe in what we're doing here, and I will support it. But we do have people who are taking their cars, and your congestion pricing is nice in New York because most of your New Yorkers have stopped driving back and forth. But as we're looking at the data, and we're going to release that data, I think it showed a decrease at 14C of 2%, but it showed an increase at 14B of like 10%. So people are still driving. They're just going in, trying to figure out how do I take a ferry or something. So they're still not giving up their cars. And if you want to say, and all due respect to Jersey City, I'm not building the high rises they're building there. People are not giving up their cars. So I'm not a fan of the way that congestion price. I am a fan of congestion pricing, and I think the governor said that. He's not against congestion pricing, just the way how New York implemented it, okay? Let's face it, New York got $50 million on the first for their transit system. The Port Jarvis ride in New Jersey is New Jersey Transit System. So we could have a whole discussion on that, but I see Deborah doing this, so I have to. But thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. That was great. I'm sorry we have so many questions. We have a very tight schedule. I will tell you that those of you who participated in the webinar that the Commissioner was on and asked questions that were not answered, he is going to answer those, and we are going to put them up on our website, as he mentioned, where we have the video, and we will do an email to everybody and let you know when those questions are up. So thank you very much. Okay, before I introduce our next speakers, I'd like to recognize the amazing team that put this summit together. Please stand up so we can thank you all. Laura Torchio, our summit coordinator. Paul Mikowitz, Johan Andrade, Tiffany Robinson, and Emmanuel Morgan. Thank them, they did an amazing job. I'd also like to thank many of you who participated in the planning committee. Really appreciate all of your input and also all of the people who volunteered today to make us actually function today for this summit. So thank you all. Now I'd like to introduce Kathleen Lewis, who will be introducing our keynote panel, The Crossroads of Transportation Policy. You all want to start coming up? Thank you. Kathleen Lewis serves as the vice chair to the New Jersey Bike and Walk Coalition, where she has served on the board for over a decade. And as a councilwoman, mayor, and now county commissioner, Kathleen has always pushed for funding and policies to make local roadways safer for all users and to encourage investments in active transportation corridors, like the Johnson Trolley Line that the commissioner mentioned. As a board member, Kathleen has continued to advocate for policies on a local and state level to move efforts like Vision Zero forward. And in her day job, Kathleen helps to move forward the state's clean transportation initiatives. And Kathleen will introduce the other panelists. Please welcome our very esteemed panel on transportation policy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I know Deb is going to hate that I'm going to do this, but Deb thanked all of her staff who have done an amazing job and all of our volunteers. But can we also thank Deb for all of her work? So I know that we are running short on time, but I think that this is a really exciting panel, so I am going to jump in quickly. I will say when Deb and I started talking about this panel, we talked about how we really wanted to have a robust conversation about lots of these pieces that are going on. Deb and I have this conversation all the time. I have this conversation with lots of other folks. So hopefully what you're going to see is the conversation that we had when we planned this session, and we could have gone on for hours. So we'll try and keep it short. But Karen Whitaker leads the League of American Bicyclists, spearheading their federal policy efforts to secure bike and pedestrian-friendly policies and funding. In past roles, Karen served as the Community Land Use Planner for North Carolina Coastal Management. And then we have Barbara McCann, recently retired from the U.S. Department of Transportation, where she most recently served as a senior advisor to Deputy Secretary Polly Trottenberg. She has developed major initiatives, including the FHAWA Street Walks Working Group, the Safety Data Initiative, and the Mayor's Challenge for Safer People and Safe Streets. As I was explaining this to my husband last night, prior to coming to DOT, she was basically the mother of complete streets. So thank you. And then Zoe Baldwin, who currently serves as RPA's Vice President for State Programs, where she promotes policies for a stronger, more connected region. Zoe has over 20 years helping shape New Jersey's transportation policy. She served for Senators Cory Booker and Frank Lautenberg. So I am going to start with a super loaded question, but I'm going to ask everybody to kick us off with, so what is the worst thing that's happened in transportation recently? I don't care. 24 hours, a week, a month. Which thing is the most concerning to you?
So I'll start. We had our National Bike Summit 2 weeks ago, and on the day when everyone was going up to Capitol Hill, we got word that a memo had come out that any discretionary grant that had bicycle infrastructure in it was now going to be paused and reviewed for the opportunity to take that bicycle infrastructure out of the grant. So,
I'll throw out there that I think the underlying stuff is the scariest for me. I think we just turned an entire generation of people away from federal service, and that's really, really bad. I think a lot of people in this room right now are volunteers, work for nonprofits, generally underpaid across the board, and that's not how we want our staff to be in these departments, and we have such dedicated, amazing people. It is going to take a long time to restore that trust, and that's really scary on the long term.
And is this on? Yeah. I would say the overarching worst thing that's happened is that we really do have a move towards autocracy. We really are seeing a pushing against laws, a not respecting of congressional, the role of Congress, and therefore the role of us, who we move through our representatives in Congress in order to make things happen. And so that fundamental change, I think, is overall the worst thing.
So I will also say, because I promised we wouldn't repeat ourselves, and I wanted our panelists to start because they've given some really scary overarching pieces. In my day job, I was really excited 4 years ago when we got a Joint Office of Energy and Transportation, because that was really important to actually connect sustainability and safety on our roadways was really important. And one of the very first things that happened was that disappeared. And I think that more than just having those bureaucracies disappear, it's that our values are being eroded. And not just no one's gonna be shocked because I'm an elected official, I'm a Democrat. So not just like my political values, but going back to the very first thing, bicycle is an evil word. And in the federal government, if you don't know this, they actually just have an Excel spreadsheet that lists all of the bad words, and they search your grants for it. So if you say bicycle, that goes in the reject pile. And that becomes really scary. And so to me, that's not just sort of the threat, but the thing that we're losing. We're losing the ability to talk about those things. So I would love for each of our panelists to talk a little bit about, from a transportation perspective, what are the things that we are going to be losing over the next 4 years?
Actually, I think I'd like to start. I do have a list of things we're going to be losing, but I wanted to start actually with something else because I feel like I'm hearing this. Like they want those things to happen, they want those words to go away, et cetera. But there's a lot of that we don't have to let that happen. And one of the things, many of you probably don't know this because it came out late last night. The Safe Streets and Roads for All grant, NOFO, came out, the Notice for Funding Opportunity, for the almost $1 billion in safety projects for local governments, which I'm sure many of you are aware of from past rounds. So the new round just came out. Here's a description from the NOFO. I have it right here. Funds for the fiscal year 2025 SS4A grant program are to be awarded on a competitive basis to support planning, infrastructure, and behavioral operation initiatives to prevent fatalities and serious injuries on roads and streets involving all roadway users, including pedestrians, bicyclists, public transportation, motorists, and commercial vehicle operators. That's the law. That's what's in the grant, that's what's in the NOFO. It's a 76-page NOFO. And much of it is very similar to what it's been before. And so I know there's a little bit of a tendency to you feel like they would like to take those things away. Well, that's not the law. And that's not what your local congressional representatives and your commissioner want to do. That's not what that's what most of us want to do. And so I think one of the really important things is going to be really, like with this NOFO and with other things, is to really document the benefits, show how the programs we're talking about benefit safety for everyone. Last night someone said, oh, they're not going to fund any road diets because it says you can't reduce roadway capacity. Well, road diets really don't reduce roadway capacity, and they improve safety for motorists. So I think we have to really not make assumptions about what they may want us to lose those things, maybe. And the other thing to note on that is that they put this out late on a Friday. There's no news release from either the Secretary's office or Federal Highways. Yet they made a big, they love to talk about the memo that you talked about they just put out, or the one that has marriage rates in it. I heard Christopher Coase from Smart With America, well, actually no, former undersecretary, used to be with Smart With America. He talked about the difference between the noise and what's really happening. That's a noise. There's a lot of noise out there. They're going to be signaling things, but they're very quietly complying with the law, which most Americans believe in. So I do have things we're losing, but maybe I'll since I pontificated, I'll pass it on to the others.
So I'm going to go back to that memo and the list of things, but I'm going to also build off what Barbara said. So in 2021, we had this amazing confluence of luck and hard work, where we had a Congress that put out a bill. I'm going to give one example. They put $1 billion a year for 5 years into this Safe Streets for All program that funds local governments to write safety plans and then to implement those plans. And at the same time, we had a US DOT that said, we're going to make it as easy as possible for local governments to get that funding. And on top of that, we had all the work that you all have done over the years, and people like you in states across the country have done, so that those local governments were ready to get those grants. There were, I think, over 1,700 local governments applied for those grants. Over 75% of the US population will be covered by one of those grants.
First 1,700 got the grants.
1,700 got the grants.
Got the grants, yeah.
And so, oh, now I've lost my...
Sorry.
Okay, so we've created this base of local governments who care about safety and are looking into it. Now we have to fight to make sure that those grants happen, right? And I will say that that confluence of things has also created a bulwark. So we need to really focus on that. And to go back to the first question, the one thing I didn't say is the fear that local governments have now about applying, about getting out of line, that individuals have, that elected officials have, that's a real problem, and that's something where the advocacy community can push back on and say, no, we're behind you if you do these things that are gonna create our streets and our roads to be safer. So there is a lot at risk. These grants are at risk. I have a table out there that has the list of grants that New Jersey got, so you can see what's at risk. But we have the law behind us right now. We have members of Congress who are quietly pushing back. And we have the actual law. And right now the DOT is doing a pretty good job of following the law, but we need to keep on them to do that.
So I'm going to go back and come back with another structural answer to this, and that's what we lost actually is incentive, and that causes some other main loss that I want to put out there. Is those of you that have been advocating for a long time, you know it's really helpful when you're like, and all you need to do is look at this pot of money. This will fund it. You don't have to take it out of your existing budgets, right? That's a good incentive. When we had, the IIJA funding that created incentives to include good infrastructure in these projects. And so we didn't lose our North Star. I think that's all of us in this room. For our DOTs, we're the North Star, but we did lose that kind of incentive, that backing from the federal government that lends legitimacy to what we're talking about. And I think the two other things that stem from that are we lose muscle memory, and that means it's a lot of work that goes into these grant applications from a community to get this money. It's a ton of reporting on the back end to say how you spent it. And there's often, if now we're thinking about new keywords we can include, if there's triggers that might make us lose this money and we're doing gymnastics to get relatively and comparatively small grants, we're gonna lose the muscle memory of doing that and going after those. And then separately, we are, yeah, I'm going to leave it there. But we're not losing everything. We'll answer that in a separate question.
No, we are not losing everything. And I think one of the things that I thought of as you guys were talking about the grants is that the grants are a really great tool. I don't disagree. And as an elected official, I really like it when people give me money to do the things I want to do. That makes it a lot easier to do. But that doesn't mean we have to stop. And so I will say, you know, at Mercer County, you heard from our county executive, and I'm sitting here now. We really care about this stuff, and we are still working on not just a Vision Zero policy, but I like to jokingly say that we should have a double zero policy. We should be getting to 0 deaths and 0 emissions at the same time. So we're talking about what that looks like. And we don't need the feds to do that. It makes it a lot easier if we do have them to do those things. But so what is it that state and local governments can be doing with this vacuum up at the top? What is it that we can be doing on a local level?
So I actually want to point something out here, and that's, so we've actually, across many sectors, have been seeing a shift towards a more state-led solution across the board. Offshore wind everywhere else in the world was a national endeavor. Here we left it up to the states, and you get this kind of uneven distribution and really unpredictable results. And we've seen that same thing in transportation. So when you really think about what the federal government offers the states in terms of this, it's basically money and like, yes, let's build it. Like that's kind of what we got. They are not providing strong national bike ped safety policies. They are not leading the policy in that space. So in that way, I think one of the things that I meant to say before was that we do lose, what we unfortunately gain is an excuse for DOTs to cut funding. Well, I don't get a match, I'm not gonna put this money up, oh, I can't do this. So we gain some of those excuses. But ultimately, we've all been doing this work the whole time anyway. So I just want to put that out as a big reinforcement that like, there's a lot of scary stuff going on, but at least with this right here, we have the muscle memory. We can keep doing this and just double down and use this time to strengthen our fabric and our communities so that we don't lose the gains that we've made over the last 20 years.
So I would say to local governments, don't preemptively change your plans or think you need to undo something. Because what I work at the federal level. I'm going to go back there. What they do is they put out these memos and see what happens. And it's already being pushed back. We're already seeing bike ped grants be like, okay, you can move forward with that. So for local governments, don't preemptively give back anything. And then moving forward, be creative. If you're going to apply for one of these grants, think about their interest in families and children and write your grants to that. We all know that our projects help families and children. Let's be explicit about it. Involve the private sector in the grants, those sorts of things. But also let your officials in DC know, because they the same way you guys push your local governments to move forward, they can push their national legislators to hold the line.
Yeah, and I would say very similar to that when the Complete Streets movement started, we got a bill in Congress in 2004, and it didn't go anywhere, and we didn't have a favorable environment in Congress. So we went to the states and the localities, and we got policies adopted all across the country, including some very early, wonderful policies from New Jersey. Thank you very much. And so we had this base from which to build the movement, and lo and behold, in IJA, we did get Complete Streets actually in the law. And so that same principle of you may not make a lot of advances at the federal level, but can really build a stronger local network, like Zoe was saying. I know just last week the Clean Rides Network was announced with some states joining that. Like that's a good example of your 00. I like that. So yeah, I think there's just a ton that you can do at the local level, and also that I don't think that the bike infrastructure instruction is going to result in they are not going to be able to pull back those grants because of the law. I don't think. I think they're doing a review. You know, they're putting a lot of the federal workers through a lot of busy work on looking for these things, but whether there actually will be a change as a result is still unclear.
I just wanted to add one thing to what I said before, because this is a room full of mostly transportation-focused folks. And Regional Plan Association, we've been in the land use game for 102 years or so. And so that's the other thing I wanted to say, that we have almost completely 100% driven locally is land use. And that is something that we can absolutely be making it easier to create this infrastructure when there is money, when we can get there. And so being involved in your local planning and zoning, focusing on infill, building around transit centers, like these are all really good policies that also just hand in glove with the kind of work that we're talking here today.
So we talked about how state and local government can sort of help fill that void. But how do we get advocates, and what should we be getting advocates to talk about here in New Jersey? How do we make sure that advocates can be champions for these things?
I psychically answered that question before you asked it just now.
You did. Is there anything in New Jersey we should be specifically concerned about, you think?
Yeah, transit funding. Yeah, that was like the best yay, boo at the same time I've heard. I love it, because that is the sentiment, right? We have somewhat temporary, statutorily dedicated, which isn't usually worth the paper it's printed on, funding for transit operations, and historically we've seen that get rated. And so again, back to that land use and planning. And then the other thing I'll say is design is almost completely funded locally. Design isn't funded by the feds very much at all. And one thing that we actually lost because of a good thing after the Great Recession was when Tiger Grants opened, basically every shovel-ready project we had built up over the prior 10 years was built, like it was gone, right? And so we actually, this is a great time, I represented the construction industry for a long time, and we talk about design backlog. That's a big one, and it seems fluffy and it doesn't feel as tangible, but that means when the money does come back online, we're ready to pounce. So transit and planning.
Well, of course, I'm not from New Jersey, so I can't be too specific. I loved what you said, though. I just think that building your power. And this movement has a lot of power, and you're making a huge difference in the state. And to continue to do that, communicate that back up to the national level, and to your colleagues in other states, and just keep that going.
So I have a couple of things. One thing, we have a petition, I also have that out at the table, where we're trying to get as many people as we can to push back on this memo, again, to help members of Congress and to push back on USDOT. The other thing I'd say is build a relationship with your elected officials at the local level, at the state level, at the federal level. Let them get to know you. When you're doing if you're with a bike club and you're doing a ride, invite them to come out with you. If you just got a new project, you got a new crosswalk, you got new lighting, anything, invite them to come out and say thank you, whether they helped you or not, right? Make them feel some ownership for that, like we just did with the commissioner here, right? They remember that. Like, help build that. And the third thing I would say is go ride your bike. You know, be visible. Go for a walk, take the bus. Let people see you doing that.
I love that. I was going to say that too. Go ride your, but be visible. That's amazing. But Kathleen set me up and I dropped the ball. One thing that we were hoping would get asked kind of when the commissioner was here, but didn't, but I do want to flag for everyone that is an immediate action item is the governor's proposed budget totally hollows out bike ped funding out of local aid. So FY23 and 24, local aid was just over bike ped local aid was just over 7% of the overall local aid budget. That dropped down to 6% in FY25, and this new proposed budget is 3%, right? So it's just under 3%, it's 2.8%. And it keeps overall local aid levels the same. So that is a very clear statement. Several of us have reached out to the governor's office and have not received any reasoning. We hope to get some of those answers soon, but that's kind of tracks back to what I said before about, like, we can't let them use the excuse of the federal actions to stymie what we're doing here. We need to keep at least our skin in the game locally.
And so I know we're going to wrap up in a minute, and we're not starting any panels before you all get out there, so don't worry. But so I think, I love all the things that everybody's saying. And I keep coming back to, and part of it is because I spend a lot of time on the sustainability side during my day job, and we have to think about how we talk about things. And so I think that we have been able to focus on the stuff that makes us passionate about transportation, saving lives, making everybody's quality of life better. And sometimes those aren't the arguments that are going to win the day in this new world, I think. And so we need to shift how we talk about things. But oftentimes it's helpful to have those little reminders. You know, transportation is the great connector. It is about building economies, and it is about keeping people safe and keeping people healthy and doing all of those pieces. And even the little things can make a difference. I was reminded of the fact that probably 10 years ago when I was on council, every time the police chief came up to talk to me and he started talking about accident reports, I went, crashes. And when I left council, probably the last meeting I had, there was a police officer who came up, was reporting, and said something about accidents, and every police officer in the back of the room went, because they knew I was gonna give them the lecture. And it takes a long time, but reminding people of all of the differences, like, and all of the ways that we need to make this important every single time is, to me, one of the things that we can be doing in this vacuum. And it's a little thing, and it may not get us funding right now, and it may not get us all of those things. But so I share that story because I think it's a small thing we can all do, remind people. When they say there's accidents, we tell them, no, there's crashes. There's a reason they happened. But I don't want to leave you thinking that it is all dire. So I think Karen started out with her list, so I'm going to ask Barbara to start, and then the other folks can join in. What are up to three things that we can do right now to make this better and to keep building and keep fighting?
Right. Well, one thing that's, I think, clear is to work to preserve the grants that have already been given out, but we have the last thing I didn't say is that there's up to $51 billion in unobligated funds nationally of grants that have already been given, including $2.4 billion that have not been obligated in SS4A program. So signing the petition and taking care of that is great. Apply for the SS4A again. Don't be intimidated by what you see happening in Washington. Read the NOFO, go by that. And then I think my main thing would be to say make alliances with other groups that work on health and safety issues. And I'm talking about, when I talk about health, I'm talking about preserving Medicaid. You know, the looking at what's going on at the federal level and the issues that we're dealing with, I think there's going to be there's some very clear threats happening, and this community can be part of that bigger effort. And in fact, that's really what made Complete Streets work, was we worked with the public health community, we worked with a lot of different communities. So constantly be reaching out to those other communities and talk about how what we're talking about is going to make us healthier and safer.
So I answered these in the wrong order. One thing I'd also say is think about the economic benefits of the projects. That is something, so
document them too.
And document them. There, in the bipartisan infrastructure law, there was a low and no emissions bus program. And this administration decided they were going to get rid of it. But if you know anything about building buses, it's not a fast process. And those companies it took them a year or two to gear up, and those companies went into the administration and said, we will go under if you get rid of this program, and that program is moving forward. So think, and just remind them, local economies, you can't save the national economy without saving local economies, without helping local economies. So as much as you can get on return on investments on projects, on local chambers of commerce or business improvement districts that are going to support you, all of that is going to help in every fight at every level.
So the first thing I'll say is build relationships. I think there's a mistaken, especially in this climate, it's really easy to mistake advocacy for fighting the government, right? And the really important thing, again, so much of this is local, build proactive relationships, right? And that even means with DOT, because even when they do the wrong thing, it's not that individual human's fault that the governor cut the budget usually, right? And so how do we maintain relationships so that we can work towards our shared goals? Because it's so easy to be very mad right now, and we just have to it's like when you're on the phone and the receptionist is telling you very bad news, or when you were talking about the budget cuts, don't shoot the messenger, right? And the other thing I'll say is persevere. I know that sounds sad, but when I worked for the Senate, I'd have tons of interns and they'd say I want to work in policy. And I'd be like, what does that look like to you? Are you ready to have the same conversation for 10 years with the same amount of energy every time, a lot of times with the exact same people? Because let's be honest, that's what this is. Your job is bringing facts to a feelings fight. You're talking about what this is versus what it's perceived as, and that can feel defeating or repetitive, but take a note from our incredibly successful and dedicated, if there's any Vision Zero folks from New Jersey Vision Zero in the room, I see Corey over there. You guys, give them a round of applause here. You guys did amazing work. And I really want to highlight that, because we had a DOT that hated the actual term Vision Zero so much that I should have corrected myself just now to say Target Zero, because we are so special here in New Jersey. We can't use the internationally accepted program language. But long story short, they were up against ridiculous hurdles, and they just kept at it. And now we have a law that is actually, looks very different than that original bill, but is very meaningful and forces important action. So just keep that in our hearts as we go forward, because we got a while.
So I would love this conversation to go on for a much longer period. Everybody else? Yeah, but we're not, Deb, we're not. And I went over the over that Deb gave me, and I know that. And so I thank everybody for being here. I really thank our panelists, because I think that this is a really great conversation we're going to have a lot more of. So thank you all.
Thank you. That was an amazing panel, and I'm sorry we have to cut it off.